you very much to our convener for the introduction and to Access for having us here today. My name is Allison Jones. I'm the Systems Librarian at Burnaby Public Library, and I'm really glad to be with you all and thankful that you've come to our presentation. I'd like to acknowledge that Burnaby, where I work, is located on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Hunkaminam and Squamish speaking peoples. We are grateful for the opportunity to be on this territory as a library system, and I'm grateful to be presenting to you today from here. Just so you know the format of our presentation, I'm going to talk first about Tech Talks at Burnaby Public Library, and then Devan's going to present about Fraser Valley Regional Library's training program, and then we'll be popping into the Q&A to answer any questions that you might have live. So I'm going to start by talking about Tech Talks at Burnaby Public Library. Burnaby Public Library is a medium-sized urban library system. We have 4 branches and over 200 staff, and we have a systems department that has 3 staff, myself, a systems operator, and a library systems support assistant. And we work closely with the City of Burnaby IT department to support staff with technology and training. I'm going to talk about our Tech Talks program today, which has been running for a little bit over a year now, since August 2021. The format of our Tech Talks is that we offer Tech Talks about every 2 weeks, although we did take a break for the summer. And they're half-hour sessions. We do 15-minute presentation and 15 minutes of questions. We usually do them at 9:15 in the morning on a weekday, and the reason we chose that time is because we open to the public at 10, so it allows public service staff to attend for half an hour before the branch opens. And we do sometimes offer them at other times, but that's really convenient for most people. And we do the sessions on Zoom, and we record them, or we record similar presentation later if we can't record the Zoom meeting for some reason, and post it afterwards on Niche Academy, which is an online content management system that we use as a library for staff training. The Tech Talks, the topics really vary, but usually the things that we're looking for when we're choosing topics are topics that are relevant to many staff members or a particular group or department of staff. Quick to explain, easy to prepare. We don't want something that's going to take our team 3 hours to prepare 15 minutes worth of presentation. We're usually looking for something where we've gotten lots of questions on the topic, or we know that staff are curious about this, and we could almost do it with no preparation. It's something that we would maybe be a lengthy staff question that we'd get by phone or email, but that we're like pretty well equipped to respond to and present on with not a lot of work in advance. So we've done things on, everything from specific technology, like we have a meeting owl or a hydrosynth at one of our branches, to talks that have to do more with patron privacy issues, phones, specific software. It really varies. In terms of getting the word out to staff, once we pick a topic, which we either think of or they might have told us about, we usually post on our staff intranet about upcoming Tech Talks and let people know what's going to be coming up. We'll announce the upcoming topics if we're at any meetings or specifically department meetings, or we'll ask supervisors to share the information, and we'll ask staff to spread the word by word of mouth. We might mention it to people who call in to us with other questions. Oh, did you know we're also doing a training on this topic in the near future? To let them know. And then we also have found that it can be quite useful if we're doing a topic that we know is of interest to a particular department to either send mass emails or put the Tech Talk in a calendar invitation and just invite that department to attend. It might be a little bit more forward of us to encourage people in this way to attend, but it's been pretty successful, and it usually boosts the attendance quite a bit when you say like, hey, we're talking about, advanced PDF features, and we know that you guys in admin use these all the time, or we're talking about privacy on the public computers, and public service librarians should really attend because you're the ones who other staff would escalate these questions to if you're the librarian in charge on your shift. So, we're sometimes pretty directive with who we think should come. Of course, not everyone can make it, and that's why we do record them, and people can watch them on demand later as well if they can't make it live. But we do find that the sessions are more engaging and fun when there's a, turnout somewhere between half dozen and a dozen people, because that really gets the Q&A more lively. It injects energy into the session, and it feels more relevant as a presenter to know that you're talking to an audience rather than to yourself. In terms of the strengths of this model, as we've found it, it's really easy to prepare. As I said, that's something that we really, are targeting with our choice of topics. It's quite flexible, and I mean that in many different ways. It's a format that we as a systems department can adapt to our own needs. If we're launching a new software, we can, pick one of our tech talk slots that's upcoming and present about that. If we are trying to train staff in a new process, we can use a tech talk for it. We can really adapt it to our own needs rather than having to come up with other separate meetings and training sessions for people. It's flexible for staff because we record the sessions. They can watch them on demand. If they have off-desk time or training time built into their schedule, they can watch these sessions on our niche academy. It's flexible for guests. We have had city IT staff present a couple of times on things like our phone system, how to hold, how to conference call, things like that. And because it's on Zoom, it's easy for them to attend without having to come in person to one of our locations. And they're flexible because we've really intentionally built in a lot of question and answer time, and people usually come with a lot of questions, or as we present they have questions, and we really try hard to make a lot of space for that rather than it being a one-way conversation. The content is reusable, and I don't just mean that in terms of people being able to rewatch the content later, but also, when we get called with a certain question and we might not have time to answer it, we often point people to the tech talks and say, hey, well, why don't you start by watching this? We've done a presentation, it's already documented, and then come back to us with whatever follow-up questions you have. Or when new staff start, we are now getting them to watch some of the modules as part of their training. It's a pretty fun format, like having a lot of time for Q&A, getting staff from different departments and branches together is, interesting for people, and sometimes people come and it turns out to be fairly social. We also get the chance as system staff to demonstrate problem solving and resources. So we can, if people ask us a question and we don't know the answer off the top of our head, we get the chance to, like libraries are used to doing at the reference desk, say, let's find that out together. I'll show you where I would look for an answer. Or, we have a process documented on the intranet about how you would go about solving that. Let me remind you where that documentation is. Or we can tell people who they should go to should that question come up in the future, come to our systems department, go to IT with that, make sure you talk to your supervisor, wherever it might be. And then the other strength that we found is we get good attendance on these. And because I can also see in the analytics for Niche Academy how many people have watched tutorials, I see that these have a pretty long lifespan. Some of them have dozens, some even more than 100 views, which for a staff of 200 people is pretty good. And that might not be true for the actual live session, but I know that they're getting use afterwards. In terms of weaknesses, doing this kind of thing virtually does mean that you're limited in terms of hands-on practice, and that's a struggle, and we do training in the branches for specific things as well. The content, if you're recording it at a specific point in time, you're capturing a certain moment and something might change. And we haven't really got to the point yet where we've needed to substantially go back through our tech talks and update them, but I think we are approaching that point pretty soon, and that's going to be something we need to figure out how to do to keep them up to date. The way that we schedule them, there's low attendee commitment. We have had sessions where 1 or 2 people show up, and it's kind of disappointing to present to a small audience. So that's why we've tried experimenting with calendar invites and things like that to try and get more people committed and have an idea of who's going to show up. And finally, because they're only 15 minutes of actual presentation, it's not good for more in-depth learning and practice with people. We do have to schedule other kinds of training when we have something where people need more time or need to go more in depth, or need more support with the thing. So this doesn't work really well for that. But lucky for you, you're about to hear from Devan Mitchell, who's got a different model that works quite well for some of that. So welcome, Devan, and here you go.
Thank you, Allison. Hello, everyone. I'm Devan Mitchell, Manager of IT at the Fraser Valley Regional Library. I would like to acknowledge I'm presenting this from the shared traditional territories of the Coastal Salish and the Inklakatma peoples. As Allison mentioned, we took a slightly different tack for presenting tech triage for our staff. While we do offer some recorded training through Niche Academy, we decided that a focus on intensive in-person training was better suited for our staff and their existing expertise levels. This led to the development of what we call tech triage training. We offer a full day of tech triage up to 3 times a year for up to 25 participants from inside and outside FERL. We run these sessions in person at our admin center, which allows for an increased staff interaction, more knowledge sharing, and the ability to get hands-on with the equipment. Because we have a full 7 hours, we're allowed to cover a myriad of topics, starting with the FERL network and the equipment in place. We then go and dive into our ticketing system, how staff can potentially help themselves through past tickets and the knowledge base, and do a section on how to communicate with IT using a shared language. We then move on to a hands-on portion where we discuss common staff and customer issues with devices, as well as provide the opportunity for the staff to get messy inside the guts of machines. After lunch, we continue with a hands-on section, and then we take a turn going over the old favorites of spam, phishing, and other potential threats in the computer environments today. We also take this time to delve not really deeply, but enough into customer and staff privacy, because that's something we're finding very, very important and front of mind nowadays. Finally, we cover off any individual questions identified during the session by trainees and cover any burning topics that may have been missed. We have found that this format offers a few benefits over recorded sessions. The full day session allows for ample time to target staff identified issues. There does seem to be a higher than normal engagement and a lower than normal number of distractions, mostly because they're trapped in a room with us and not watching something on their own time. Being face-to-face with IT staff also builds a familiarity and strengthens the trust with the IT team. By being able to actually see and understand and interact with somebody in a personal level, they gain just that much more trust. We also take the time to rewrite the training every session, so we incorporate all the new and crazy things that may or may not be threatening us in the new world. Finally, we do provide lunch. There are some downsides to the in-person training, however. It can be very costly to have staff attend, as travel, coverage, staff time, both for them and for the IT staff presenting, lunch, meals, etc., everything has to be paid for. The session also has to be somewhat generalized, and the staff that are attending can influence the training significantly, both by dictating the speed of the training and potentially monopolizing the session with questions and tangents. Finally, because we adapt the session every time, every session is different. So we're finding that staff are requesting repeat training basically every time we have some staff. So that's the breakdown of the 2 ways that Burnaby Public Library and Fraser Valley Regional Library approach training. But what actually makes for good tech training? Allison and I had a discussion about this and came up with the following factors. First and foremost, make sure you have some tech training. Having something available just empowers staff and potentially negates issues in the future. Keep the information updated, recent, and relevant. IT changes quickly in the library industry and worldwide, so customers are going to come in with new tech. Staff are going to be going, what is this new thing that you're introducing to us, etc., etc. So take the time to keep what you're training as relevant as possible. Finally, use the training to reduce a fear of staff, both in the tech and in the IT team. Having staff familiar with both the equipment and the people that'll help them fix the equipment just makes your life easier down the line. So now that we've gone through all of that, I believe that we have some time for questions. So I turn things back over to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Devan, Allison. That was a great presentation. I love the idea of collaboration and sharing and just empowering people. I think Joel Rivard, who's helped organize the conference, I don't see him out there right now, but he does tech talks at Carleton, so it's no doubt a popular idea. Are there any questions for Allison and Devan? I'm getting a signal. Yes. We need some tech talks about Slido, I think, maybe. Okay, so the first question that comes up, what topics have been the most popular for your staff?
Go ahead, Allison.
Sure. Our staff, well, at a public library, the vast majority of our staff are in the public service department and are public facing. And so the topics that we do that relate to our public facing technology have proven really very popular. So we've done some talks that relate specifically to things like as I mentioned in the presentation, privacy on our public computers was quite interesting to people. And we do get a lot of questions about it from both staff and patrons. So it's something that we refer people back to often, which was actually also really gratifying for us because the privacy aspect of our public computers is something that I always kind of wish people talked about more. And so it was nice to see that that was well received. We're also about to be rolling out a new system for public computer booking and public printing. And we're putting together some tech talks on that and have had a lot of interest in that upcoming content. And then the other one that has proven quite popular is we are rolling out some new maker spaces, tech spaces in our system, and people are really interested in the tech talks that introduce them to the new technology there that they might be really unfamiliar with. So those are some of the really popular ones for us.
Yeah, and I echo that statement. Is most of the things that people actually try to communicate on are the things that they're facing with their customers. So problems that are very front of mind just because it happened to them yesterday come up all the time, and a lot of people actually enjoy getting hands-on with the tech because they don't feel not that we don't tell them not to, but they don't feel empowered to when we're not there. So letting them get a little dirty really sparks some interest in them.